So get this, I'm out. I meet a controller for a local company called Proof in the Pudding. And have you ever heard of this company?
No.
They do food and beverage, like huge food and beverage events. So they were at the tour championship, and so she says, "Hey, I want you to come up and I want you to meet our CFO and our CEO." And I was like, "Ah, that'd be great. I would love to do that." So yesterday I come up early, and I'm thinking, like, when she said golf tournament, I was thinking, oh, it's like a charity golf tournament. So it's like, what should I wear? She's like, oh, just wear what you wear on the golf course, right? It's like, okay, yeah, sure. So I come up and like, oh wait, this is the tour championship. This is a big deal. So I get out there and I'm parking on the back. It was actually kind of cool. It was very. There's like the stage, and then there's like the backstage.
So you were important. You felt important.
I did feel important. Yeah, I'm driving my big old truck on these golf cart paths, and like, what is this guy doing? But I get out there, and so finally realize, oh, this is a big deal. I've never been to a golf tournament before. Have you ever been to a real golf tournament?
Yeah, we have one in our backyard down in Ponte Vedra. So
is that the Sawgrass? TPC Sawgrass?
Yeah, TPC. Yeah, the players.
It's amazing.
It is.
This is my first venture out. In fact, it was so funny. So I'm not a golfer, but I can golf. It's just if you want to win your charity event, then you don't want me on your team because
you need a ringer.
For sure. If you want a huge handicap, I'm the guy, right?
Yeah, exactly. If it's a scramble, I'm in, but I'm not the guy they call to be a ringer.
Best
right?
ball.
So
the Happy Gilmore 2 thing, just get that big drive in. It's like, I'm out. You guys putt, you guys chip. I'm done, right? Mm-hmm. So I get out there, and I was like a kid in a candy store. I got to meet with the Amazon group while we're out there. The Proof in the Pudding guys, they got this thing on lock. I mean, food and beverage. They do, I think, 7 or 8 major golf tournaments. They're also at Georgia Tech. They're at they have what's called the, I'm going to get this wrong, it's called the Athletes Table, or where Georgia Tech, Duke, Rice University, and they'll do all of the food and beverage for the athletes. And I was like, oh, there are companies that come in, like you got the Aramarks, you got all these larger companies that we know from, like that more like the big cafeterias, the Pentagons and things like that. These guys come in and they, you have this whole golf village, and the food and beverage is being run entirely by this group. They'll have vendors come in and buy out, like there's a barbecue joint there, there's a pizza joint there, and they're buying space, right? And there's a revenue split, what have you. But the entire operation, food and beverage rise, is run by these guys. And I was thinking, this is so fascinating that because I know what food and beverage is, but I know it from a very limited scope at the Bananas when we give away a lot of our food, all you can eat on the ticket, right? And so, which a lot of people are like, what are you doing? But then, so I see those costs, but on a scale like that, you got to think margin, you got to think the number of people, you got to think weather, right? We play baseball outside, they play golf outside. If it rains, there's no throughput, right? And you still have the overhead of the air conditioning units, of the structures, and they build kitchens.
It's a risk, right?
Yeah.
So you got a lot of things got to come together for everything to line up.
Yeah. So what they did, the reason why I'm telling the story is because I know you were like, hey, what do we wear on the show? And I was like, you wear whatever you want, right? So earlier I had a shirt on. I try to change the so I know we do Batch podcasts, right? But I try to change what I wear so people, when I'm looking, I was like, why does that guy always wear that shirt? It's like he's always in that one shirt. So I have clothes over there, and I'll change out, put on a different hat, right? Love this BDO hat, by the way. This podcast brought to you by a BDO. But it's one of the best things about being out there with the Proof and Pudding guys. So we're walking around this merch thing. Now I know a little bit about merch. We do some merch with the Bananas, right? It's very different. It's out. We have lines that are strung along. It's out in the heat. We're in tents, like tailgating tents, right? We have road cases that are split open, have egg crates in there with shirts that are stacked in there. So you have novelties on the table. It's a very, very different experience. You walk into this giant tent. It's air conditioned. There's Peter Millar, there's Lululemon, there's all these, and it's beautiful. It's all pastel colors. And so I'm looking around, it's like, oh my gosh, this is like, it's like in Legally Blonde when she said, what is this place? Like, this is a department store. They talk about they pump in pure oxygen. So I could sing that song. But I'm looking around, I was like, this is amazing. Like, I didn't know that they did mobile merch like this. So now I got to meet the people who are putting this thing on.
Yeah, it's impressive. I've seen some of that at the players as well, and I'm not sure who puts that on, but yeah, you walk in and there's a million people in that air-conditioned building looking at all the name brands, and it's crazy. So they do a good job of bringing in local vendors too that have their own branded items as well, in addition to the the Lulus and the Peter Millars and all the other things. So it's pretty impressive.
It is pretty pricey as well. My goodness. When I was standing there, the gentleman I was with, his name is Jeremy, and the controller over there. So he's I forget the exact title. He's a executive vice president, what have you. And then Tracy, who is the controller over there. And then I was able to meet their CEO and CFO later. 'Cause traffic issues. I actually went over to their office to say hello. But but Jeremy goes, hey, why don't you pick out a shirt? We'll buy you a shirt. And I was like, oh my gosh, these things are super expensive. Like I wouldn't even buy one of these shirts, right? And he goes, just go pick one. It's our treat, right? So I'm looking at these prices, going, there is no way I'm going to buy a $100 polo. But I want to thank the Proof and Pudding people for this beautiful polo from the Tour Championship that you can only get at the Tour Championship. It was my first tour, golf tournament out there, and they made it a really great experience. So it
looks great.
The sleeves are a little tight though. I don't know what's going on.
I think you chose that size on purpose. So.
You know what? I might have. So when people are like, "Dang, what's going on?" It's like, "Oh, they come with the shirt. Don't worry about it."
Well, it is in the name of the podcast. So.
Yeah. So I'm glad you're here. Scott, give me just a little bit about yourself. Obviously, you're with BDO. You're fully branded as BDO, which is great because you're a managing partner down in Jacksonville. Give me just a little bit of background on what you're all about.
Yeah, background. I grew up in Florida. Actually, started my career with Arthur Andersen when it was the Big Six, right? So I'm dating myself a little bit there, but spent 5, maybe 6 years with Andersen in both Boston and Jacksonville. Moved on to industry, worked for a group of public companies, served as a VP of tax. Moved on to another firm at that point and helped build and open and grow the tax practice for another firm. Jumped over to BDO about 2 years ago. So I started in public accounting, went to industry, back in public accounting.
The best public accountants do that.
Yeah, so I like to say I can kind of bring a practical approach, because I've been a buyer, right? I've sat in that chair and I've dealt with all the firms and know what I'm looking for, when I'm, dishing out projects and getting pricing. So, really I've been tasked with growing the business in Jacksonville as a tax principal there and developing our people, just strengthening the relationships I do have and going to market and developing other relationships. I also serve in a statewide role where I work to support our market managing principal down in Miami and the rest of our principal team on go-to-market strategies and, bringing ideas to our clients and prospects to help us grow.
Yeah, so Florida's a big market.
It is a big market. It is a big market, and a lot of people don't realize that, BDO has grown substantially over the last, call it 10 or 15 years, and we actually have the largest tax practice in Florida.
Is that right?
Out of all the firms.
So I remember when we first came out of school, so I graduated in 2000 from the University of Florida, and master's in accounting, got the CPA license, just like everybody else back then did, right? And we go into public accounting. We're doing the marching orders. You got to get at least 3 to 5 years in public accounting before you leave, so you can actually go and become a controller or a VP, right? To make that lateral, but kind of a better, less hours, more money, right? And then of course Sarbanes-Oxley comes out around 2002, and it completely ruins all my plans to do that, make that jump. But what I did realize though is that when you're in public accounting, I was just stating this in a conversation the other day, that you don't really know what you don't know, because you approach things. I should point the finger in at me, right? So when I'm out there and I'm at a client, I think I know what I'm talking about, but then you really you start having conversations about the ins and the outs of like the daily ongoings. I was on the audit side, you're on the tax side. The audit side, you look at it and you say, you're having conversations with them. They're like, I get it that you know the rules, but you don't really know how it works. Like, yeah, that's great that control, like you have it written in that narrative, but the reality of it is like that's not really how we do it. Oh, well then tell me how you do it. Like, and then all of a sudden you look underneath the laptop and there's the password. They're posted with all their passwords in it, right?
Exactly.
But it's what I found, and we are absolutely going here because we'll tell the origin story of our bromance in a second. But there is a learning curve that happens inside public accounting that is it's vicious. It's if it used to be if you didn't sail down that learning curve fast enough, you were jettisoned from the organization. They made you feel, and this is real. Public accounting just didn't care. There were so many people out there that had all these advanced degrees.
You could burn them and churn them.
Done.
So
yeah. Oh, you don't like it here? Okay. Well, just go ahead. You're probably better suited for private, right?
You really don't know anything the first 3 to 5 years.
You don't.
You've been well prepared through school, but when the best way to gain that experience is through interaction with clients and working through projects, right? And being mentored by the folks at the firm. So I encourage everybody to when you're coming out with an accounting degree, I think everybody should spend time at a firm because that's where you really learn all the different things that you need to know that would set you up for the rest of your career. So
well, and also when you're in that firm environment, so there's a lot to be said, and you don't really learn this until later on when you have the wisdom of you have the knowledge, you just don't know how to apply it, right? So, but finally, when you get to the point where you're like, hey, this stuff kind of makes sense. It's almost like you wish you could go back and say, "Oh, how would I have attempted that client, that issue, this?" And it's not to say that you missed it, but there's a lot to be said about the information that you have in your head and how it's being applied, and if it's being applied in the right manner. Okay, we'll just get into it. So you and I had met through a colleague, and I don't mind throwing Brian on our bus here. So we met. I met him on LinkedIn. We had a conversation. He took a little bit more than I thought was going to happen. All of a sudden, it was a sales pitch. I was like, whoa. So we developed a relationship. He's a dad, has a good family, this, that, and the other. And so when I was telling him about this podcast, he goes, "Oh, I have you're related to him or in some form or fashion?"
He's my wife's cousin.
Okay, so there's a lot of family. Yeah. And so he's like, I got this guy you need to have in a show. He'd be perfect. And so you and I had a conversation. I believe, oh gosh, we were on the phone. I forget what city I was in.
You were in
traveling.
Boston.
Was I in Boston?
Yeah, because that's my second home.
Oh, okay,
right?
okay.
So you sent me a picture from Fenway.
So we're talking on the phone, and all of a sudden we start talking about your background, like what you finally got some words in edgewise because they're like, "Hey, can I talk about me now?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, sorry, your turn." By the way, I just had 4 espresso shots and I was rolling, but
yeah.
But then we started talking. Somehow it got into recruiting and how you do on-campus recruiting, and then from there, it's like you just lit a fire, and we just started going back and forth. Like, this is what needs to change. This is what I'm seeing out here. This is what the students are facing. Industry does not know what these students are dealing with on campus. University accounting instruction needs to change. It was like boom, 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 and I said, stop. We need to get you on this podcast because this is all the information that students need to hear. And so, not that this podcast is particularly for students, but this one in particular, I want students to be able to listen to this and go, this is the roadmap that I need to pay attention to because there's 2 individuals in industry with 20 some odd years of experience that are looking back and saying, hey guys, if you really want to navigate these waters, this is what you need to do. This is what it's really like on the other side. And then they can use this as a preparation of, okay, what am I missing? Like what are the interstitial steps that do I need to join the Institute of Management Accountants? Do I need to join the student version of the FICPA, the GSCPA? What do I need to do to get myself in the positions to be successful? Because no one else is going to do it for them.
No, and it's I don't think there's enough education and enough. They don't have enough awareness of. Some people pick accounting just because I'm good at numbers, right? And I know I can get a decent job. Really my interest in accounting started in high school. I grew up in a little, small town outside of Orlando, and they actually offered an introduction to accounting class at the high school level, right? Cool. So I took it, I loved it. It gave me, an introduction to how that world works. Had a great professor there that was passionate about it, and I got into college, and that I chose that major and went down that path. But I think back at the schools now, there's nothing like that, right? Like at least the schools that my kids go to or have been associated with, and maybe even some of the other friends and family I know, it's like, hey, how are we preparing people you know, to at least give them a taste of what accounting looks like, but also tell them, you know, and explain to them that it's not just number crunching, right? Like it's you know, the profession is built on relationships, and it's going more towards technology and automation, and like there's a lot of things you can tie together and be a successful accountant that, you know, is outside the mold of what they think it is.
Well, so I think a lot of times when people think accounting, very similar, they just think math, right? And I used to have students, they'd be like, it's just math, Dr. Naddy. It's like, I mean, sure, it deals with numbers. Yeah, you have some addition, you have some subtraction, maybe some multiplication. If you want to get in some fancy algorithms and stuff, go to the quantum finance route. But the reality of it is that if you have a whole bunch of numbers in front of you, it's a very technical discipline. And one of the problems that we have is that we have people that are in 25 years in their business now that have no idea how to take that technical information and make it tangible to somebody who needs to use it. And so my thought is that, so One Foot at the Bananas, awesome, very creative organization, right? You know of it. I don't do backflips. I've blown out both knees. We don't need to go there. And that's why I also don't play pickleball. But on the other side, is I have 1 foot over at SCAD, and so one of the things that it's at Savannah College of Art and Design, and I'm teaching a course right now called Strategic Financial Management. This course, when it first came out, I was just talking to some students the other day. We just finished up our quarter for this summer quarter. And I had all 5 women who actually kept coming to the class. There's 15 people in the class, but there are only 5 that actually came and actually conversed. And I was asking, I was like, so what is it about this course? Did you learn anything in this course? And these are creatives now. I'm talking about like a fashion and brand management. You have fashion. You have industrial design. I had an artist in there, an actor, and they all said, well, when we first came in, we were scared. And I was like, yeah. That's the problem. The problem is that everybody, and they don't even need to, like, they have to take this class just because it's kind of a business course. In fact, they're in their Master's of Business Innovation degree program. And so they have to take a business course. But all of them had the same fear. It was like, I didn't even know what to expect in this class. I was like, well, how do you feel now? I feel like I could start a business. That's the reason why we do this. So I look at it and say, well, if people are always coming in, and students do it all the time, young professionals do it when they come into the firm with fear and trepidation. They come and it's like, I don't want to make a mistake. I have to know everything. I have to be on at all times. I can't say something stupid in front of the client. I don't want to say something stupid in front of the partner. And then all of a sudden you're it's like all this stuff is gung, 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 gung. And you're so defensive. You're looking out over your shoulder. You're paranoid. That's not the way a professional should react, but that's what we do to them. And it literally starts when we weed them out at the university level. So you come in, it's like, hey everybody, we have this great opportunity for you in the world of accounting, finance and accounting. But you're gonna take this course, and when you take this course, if you're not good enough, we're just gonna let you go. You can be a marketing person, you can be a communications person.
You got one shot, right? So
so even at the very tip of when we're trying to grab this talent in, we're not even taking the best and the brightest.
Right.
We're just taking the people that pretty good at it.
And you can't, it's somewhat unfair to kind of steer somebody's career after 1 or 2 classes. Yep. Right? Because everybody adapts to it a little different way, right? And we do have to do more to embrace it and to give folks there's got to be additional paths, right, in order to get there, especially if they have a desire to do it and they feel like that's one of their talents, right?
Well, one of the things I see at the SCAD side is these are people who have actually gone out and they're doing something inside their dream, right? And what I love about SCAD students in particular is that they are living their passion, right? If they are passionate about drawing, they are doing drawing, whether they're making money or not. I am gonna draw for a living. I'm gonna paint for a living. I'm gonna do art or design video games for a living. May not make a good living, but I love it, right? It's almost, I look at them and go, why don't I feel like that? Like, when I graduate with an accounting degree, why don't we feel like that? Like, oh, I want to do accounting for a living. It's like, accounting it's a beautiful discipline. It's very for a type A person like me, balances out, debits, credits, what have you. And it all just works. There's nice rules, there's boundaries, there's all these different things, but nobody gets excited about being an accountant. Like you tell people, what do you do? It's like, oh, I'm a CPA. Like, oh.
Well,
Like,
there's a stereotype
I'm sorry.
to it, right? So yeah, I mean, we're all supposed to be nerdy and dorks, and we don't have fun, and we work too much, right? Like that's the mold, that's the perception of the way the younger people see us.
It's really difficult because right now we're in a if you're inside the finance and accounting world, you understand we have a pipeline issue. And everybody's like, oh, what's the pipeline issue? No, we're graduating even more accounting students. Like that's the issue is not that, guys. It's not that people are now there are less people that are taking accounting courses and finish them. But if you're graduating out, there's certain campuses that are stalwarts when it comes to that, right? They're gonna crank out accounting students. The issue though is that when they get into industry, what are we doing to make sure they stay? Because I can tell you what the conversations I'm having with new professionals, young professionals, 1, 2, 5 years into the mix, they're like, there's nothing here. I'd rather go over there. I don't even want to do accounting anymore.
Right.
Why?
I've seen that real time in the last few months. We've had people with 2 years of experience say, I need to do something more creative, and I'm going to leave. And you've spent all your time on this degree, and somehow, along the way, we weren't able to help that person feel like this is their path, right, and get excited about it, right? So there's a lot of stereotypes that I'm trying to break down, you're trying to break down, and it's going to take a lot of people to jump on board and help with that.
Well, when you're on campus, so you do on-campus recruiting, right?
I do.
So I hate to say it, but you are a Florida State Seminole, and as a Gator, that there's a lot of tension. I remember there was so Joe Rogan was mentioning how I just saw a picture of Joe Rogan's studio, and it was a picture taken from like over here, and you could see back, and the table that he has, like this is a very wide table. But you can see that his studio is actually not that big. But on his podcast, it makes it look like with the different angles of the cameras and stuff, it makes it look like they're in a pretty large room. And so he was telling a story once about how he had Mike Tyson on the show, and that how that because of Mike Tyson, he got a wider table between him, because he realized that if he had made him mad at any moment, he could have reached across the table and knocked him out, snapped his neck or whatever, right? And this is an MMA guy talking about.
I need to back up here.
But the idea there is that so when we're in these situations where we're in face to face with people, I think we're just missing the opportunity to really engage with them. We're thinking about how we can, like, what jobs we're on, this, that, and the other. We're not looking in their eyes. We're not listening with our faces. And then you have people. You've been there. You've been at parties where you're having a conversation, and you have your drink, and people looking over your shoulder, like, you know what? We'll connect on this later. Say when you can listen to me, we'll connect on this later.
Yeah.
I think that we're doing that to our students. They're coming into our profession, and it's like, well, you already know all the stuff you need, so just do it. Like, what do you mean? So when you're on campus and you're talking to these students, because you're currently doing that for the public accounting industry, what are some of the sentiments you're running into?
I think there's a perception. The students are already have been, I don't want to say brainwashed, but what they've been told or what they've seen or read is that, we're kind of tied to a desk and we sit in front of a computer, and, there's not a lot of social activity. So part of what we have to do is, when I go speak, and I've spoken to, Beta Alpha Psi, women in accounting, I've spoken in professors' classrooms at various campuses, but is really tell them, talk to them about some of the real stories and how we live day to day, and which for me, and I'm at a level now where a lot of what I do is really built on relationships, right, and social interaction, and I'm in front of people trying to get people to, trust me, understand who our brand is, but when I start telling stories that how I've been with clients, and I've taken clients fishing, and we go golfing, and we do different things. They're interested in hearing about some of those stories that are a little bit, hey, like you're not just a dork sitting at a computer. And, there is some interesting side of this.
It's a stereotype.
Yeah, it is. And it's, so I really have to get raw with some of the stories and just talk to the students about, how we live our lives and how that we try to mentor them and coach them, but also make it fun, right? Like we're trying to build a really, top of class, just a highly functional firm that can also have fun too, right? And so it's a challenge because I think they also get they talk to other peers that have gone to work for certain firms, and it depends. Every firm's going to be different based on the location and the size and what practice you're in, and some of them work crazy hours and they get burnt out real quick, and others have a better experience where they can kind of develop a little bit more and they have a better work-life balance. So I try to talk to them about what I see and the way that I live my life, right? And the way that I actually try to lead by example in terms of creating a work-life balance. I mean, those are things that people want to hear. Don't get me wrong, when we're in busy season, it's grind, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's got mandatory hours. You can't avoid it, right? It's just part of the aspect of being a CPA. But if I can, sometimes I'll block my calendar so that I can go to my kids' games, right? Their baseball games, football games, volleyball games. Yeah. And I'll tell my teams that I'm working with, hey, I'm going to cut out for a couple hours. This is important to me. And hopefully, and I encourage them to do the same thing, but hopefully them seeing other people do it, like in leadership roles, lets them know that, hey, if I can manage my time and I can make this thing work, right, in terms of a career and having a work-life balance. But going back to your ultimate question, I think when we're on campus, they need to hear, especially from my perspective, with when I'm trying to recruit and get folks to come to BDO, it's like I gotta tell them why our culture is different, right, and how we're differentiating ourselves from some of the other firms. One of the things that we've done too in the last 2 years is we're the only large accounting firm that's converted to an ESOP. What that does is the ESOP creates an ownership tool for everybody in the firm. So somebody, and I still don't think the students completely understand the power and the value of that.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the normal path in a firm where you come in and work for 10, 12, 15 years, and then maybe you get a shot at being a partner, if you come in now, the firm's giving you shares right away. So like you can come in at a very young age, start accumulating wealth, because as that ESOP price changes, you build more wealth and you're padding your retirement. And then when you get to the partner or principal level, it's even more, right? Yeah, so, nice. There's a lot of work to do to educate, I think, the students on culture, break the stereotypes, and then, bring some of these other things to the table that, to me, are valuable when you're thinking about a career.
So I was out I was very fortunate to be able to go and speak with the California CPAs. And so I'm looking at the Florida Institute of CPAs, we got the Georgia Society of CPAs, we've got the Maryland CPAs, got the Iowa CPAs, we're all over the place, right? Out in California, we had two people that were up on. It was kind of like it was the last day. I was just due up to speak about what another topic, burnout, right? But right before I got up there, there were two people on stage. There was one a heavy hitter from the AICPA, I forget her name, and there was another gentleman who was like a big deal in the California CPA world, and it was interesting because they were going back and forth just talking about just the industry and where we're going. They're specifically talking about pipeline. And of course, some stats got put up there saying, hey, it's not as bad as everybody thinks. And then I had there was this woman that was sitting right next to me. So I was kind of in the back because just kind of taking some notes. I get a little nervous about getting up there next. And I remember this woman right next to me. She says kind of under her breath, she says, well, I just wish, and it was almost like she was talking to me, but she wasn't talking to me. She goes, I just wish what I learned in school, I wish what I learned in school was actually applied in real life. And I turned to her, I physically turned to her and I said, okay, listen, what's your name? My name's Irma. Irma, great to meet you. I'm Tim. And I'm actually doing a keynote right after this, guys. But what you just said, is it real? Like, do you really feel unprepared when you go into the real world? She's like, oh yeah. She said, all of us do. there were 65 students there in the Cal CPA, and I did not get a chance to talk to all of them, but she shared a sentiment that I felt 25 years ago, and I'm looking at this going, nothing has changed. So when I look at it, I was like, well, what are we doing? Like, why do we continue to put new and fresh talent in these? We have not removed any of the stumbling blocks that we thought we were, and I kind of look back and go, I know why. We get busy, life happens, and it's kind of like some people look at it and go, oh, well, I went through it. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You're stop being like the beta CPA. We all did it. You can do it. Which I think is a really dumb mentality for professionals where it's all about team and making sure that everybody, like, rising tide lifts all boats, not just one boat, right? So here I am 25 years later. I'm sitting next to a woman. She's a student. She says something that resonates very deeply with me. And I go on stage afterwards, and I said, would you mind if I call on you during the keynote so that you can stand up and tell everybody in this room what you just basically divulged without even knowing who was listening? Right. And she did, and she stood up. She was very brave. She said that in front of future potential employers, in front of tenured professors, in front of people that they could have some impression on where you go to work or where you not go to work, right? But her honesty was the reason why we could have this conversation, which was, why aren't we changing these things? It's been 25 years, and I felt exactly the same way as her. In fact, we go back to I'd written a dissertation for when I did my doctorate. Great me, hubris, blah blah blah. But the point was that when what I was trying to study is this thing that I've coined as first year shock, right? I've got to pull this dissertation out. It's actually relevant now. And at the time I was trying to figure out, like, why, when I got into, I came out, I went straight into PwC Tampa. And I worked for PwC, worked for Deloitte, I've worked for a small regional firm in Tallahassee. I've also worked for Clifton Larson Allen later on in my career. But when I first came out, I was working at PwC. Everybody came out with a master's. Everybody had their CPA. We took a test in 2 days, right? There wasn't stretched out over 30 months, which is another issue we need to talk about. But I'm looking at that and saying, I'm at the cream of the crop of the business world, and that person's depressed, that person's drinking too much, that person just quit, that person doesn't care if they get fired. Like, what is happening to all of these incredibly smart individuals that I just graduated with, and where did they go a year from now? They're gone. They either got pushed out for whatever reason. It's very, in those days, it's very petty. Because of the churn. Because we'll just replace you. Or if they're there, they're like walking around like zombies because they literally don't know how to do their job. There's no manager that's reaching down and saying, "Let me show you how to do this." No one mentoring. It's like, you're just gonna have to figure it out. That's the wrong answer. But nothing has changed. The university hasn't changed. The accounting instruction hasn't changed, because I am waiting for tenured professors to finally just retire, because that new wave of professors coming in, they see this. They're talking. It's the whole be seen. They see what's happening to these students, because the students they're not shy anymore. They'll come back and be like, "Dude, what's going on? Like, why didn't you tell me it was going to be like this?" And they're using that instead of the tenured professor saying, that's not what that pays me. This research paper pays me. The new professors are actually teaching. And so they look at it and go, "Oh my gosh, that's my product. And I've delivered an 80% product. How do I fix this?" So there's a huge movement that's happening right now in accounting instruction, that how do we fix this problem? And it's all gonna come off the back of these students who are finally just like, "Dude, what's going on?" And it's our responsibility, the ones with the clout, to listen to them and go, "You know what? I think it's about time to change this stuff." So some of the things that you've heard on campus, we need to pull off the Band-Aids and everything, because this is the real conversation that we need to have, because there are people like us in the industry who need to hear this, because there's a generation that's coming up and they go, "I don't want any part of this." And we need them. That's the pipeline that we're talking about. They are not coming up because they're looking at us going, "No, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over here." What do we got to do?
an easy answer, right? But it starts with us, right? It starts with us. The thing, I talk to students all the time, even outside of the campus recruiting, my kids' friends and whatnot. And I ask them a lot of questions, right? Because some of them are like, hey, I'm going to pick this major or go this path or that path. And it's like, I'll ask some questions like, you like numbers? Have you ever been exposed to accounting? It's like, well, I don't think I want to do. There's, again, going back to the stereotypical mold, I don't know that that's what I'm cut out for. And then when I start walking them through, what I do on a daily basis, they get a little more interested. But I can go talk to a group of accounting students, but by that point, when they're juniors and seniors at these events, they've already kind of made up their mind. That's the path they want to go. And at that point, it's, hey, I've got to, sell them on the culture, talk to them about, how we're going to develop them, right, and help them as they captain their own career and kind of move through the system. But we do have to cast a wider net and catch some of those kids that have already made the choice that they're not going to go into accounting, right? And I don't know how to do that yet. I will say, interesting thing that our South Florida practice did, our market managing principal, Danny Castro down there, is great. He did a partnership with a high school down there, and he brought all these kids in from high school under an externship program.
Cool.
And they shadowed all these leaders that we have down in our South Florida office in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. And it was a tremendous success. I think we have to
a success in terms of what?
In terms of participation, they got a great number of students that wanted to do this.
Okay.
And the feedback that they got was really good. Like this has kind of given me a snapshot into what it means to be
great
an accountant from the leadership level, right? And we've got to prepare them, for some of the hard years, right, while they're learning, but also be willing to grab them and bring them along to client meetings and business development opportunities and things like that. That stirs the pot a little bit and gets another side of the brain going, right?
Yeah, so I'm curious because so private equity is now a part of our lives, and people are extremely concerned with the way that hey, you need to take your CPA off of LinkedIn. You need to take your CPA off of anything that has to do with because you can't put yourself out there as this CPA anymore. And of course, there's a giant backlash. I know our buddies Blake and David over at the accounting podcast are like, no. You need to go out there. Like, we're protesting. You put that CPA back on your LinkedIn, right? And I fully support that. But now I know that this podcast is Georgia Society of CPAs. I know we're CPAs and that we that's the crown jewel of our discipline, right? But I'm really coming around to this thing of I don't think everybody's cut out to be a CPA, and that's okay. But you do need to get that accounting degree.
Yep.
You have to get that is the degree in business. Marketing, fine. MIS, fine. Just go get these other degrees. But the accounting degree is so valuable because people know that you know business.
Yeah. Well, I've talked to dozens of kids just in the last few months, and I'm like, what do you study and what do you want to get your major in? And it's like finance, marketing, this, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Where are you going to go work? Because if you get an accounting degree, you can do anything in the business world. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to go work at a firm and be a CPA, but you have a basic understanding of what it means to run a business.
Everything.
Right. So the accounting degree, to me, there should be no other option in the business world other than, hey, let's get an accounting degree because it fundamentally prepares you for that journey. Yep. Now, going to work for a firm is a good idea because you learn so much in those first few years. But again, you generally don't have to be a CPA, I think, until you reach the manager level, right, at the firms. But you can go get a little bit of experience and then go do something else that's still in the business world, but not really focused on, serving as a CPA.
Yeah,
right?
well, and so it's refreshing to hear you say that because, so I had a gentleman reach out to me on LinkedIn. He's a freshman. He's a rising freshman at Drexel University. And just found me on LinkedIn. Hey, got a couple questions for you. And so, I got some time. I was driving back from a wedding from Virginia. So I said, just call me. Here's my number. So he calls me. He's like, hey, thank you so much for your time. It's really funny how people, like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. But he says, listen, I've been following a little bit of your career. You've had some really neat things in your past. He's like, one, how did you get to where you are, and how can I model that? It's like, okay, well, first of all, yeah, we'll talk about, here's what I've been able to do, but first of all, let me ask you a question. So you're going to Drexel. First of all, congratulations, great school, right? I said, what are you majoring in? And it's a rising freshman. He goes, I'm thinking about going to MIS, maybe getting a minor in like communications. I think it was communications. And I said, interesting. I said, how much do you know about AI? And he goes, well, I mean, it's ChatGPT and stuff. I was like, how much do you know about AI over the next 4 years? He goes, what do you mean? I said, you're going to get an MIS degree, and in 4 years, you're not going to be able to see what that MIS even does, because AI is taking over MIS. It's taking over DIS. It's taking over data analytics. It's taking over everything. You're going to get a degree that a robot can do in 4 years. It's doing it now. You know what it can't do? It can't learn how to run a business and have a personal relationship with somebody, with a vendor, with a customer, with your partner. It can't do that for you. Can I proffer this? And I said, this is not what you called for, but this is what you're going to get. I would like you to seriously reconsider the MIS degree. I would like you to go and get a bachelor's in accounting degree. And I said, I tell this to my own sons. Bachelor's in accounting degree. Then go get a master's in information science, a master's in data analytics, because then it's a 1-year program. You're using all the technology right now, and you have an accounting degree that will be forever useful.
For sure. And you're prepared from a technology perspective, right? And like you're getting exposure to more things. It's a natural fit. Like, I mean, I even, my son at Florida State is an accounting major, right? And he has a little more insight into what I do, and I've talked to him throughout the years. But all of his friends have come to the table with the same thing, and they're, hey, I've actually been successful in getting a majority of them to change their major just by having that natural conversation. And AI is certainly important, and our generation, the generation that's coming up, is going to have to embrace that. Mm-hmm. But it still can't take away, to your point, the ability to run a business, the ability to understand debits and credits, how transactions work, and just relationships, right?
Yeah.
Because AI is not replacing an audit function or a tax function anytime soon. It's going to supplement it. Right?
Correct. So, well, and it's been doing it for years. It's like the whole machine learning thing. All of a sudden, AI is the big buzzword, but machine learning's been doing this for years anyway. Mm-hmm. It's just how do we add that into our portfolio of taking tedious tasks and automating them? That's happening in all industries. The thing that really frustrates me about where the AI is going is that perfect example. KPMG just announced, or there was an article. I don't know if it was
about the interns.
Yes,
I saw that. 20% of all interns believe that AI is going to replace their job or something like that, right? I couldn't remember.
Well, but there's more. Yeah. There was another article that came on the heels of that one that said within the next 3 years they're hiring students out of school and teaching them how to be managers in 3 years. Instead of don't even worry about the rudimentary accounting functions because that's going to be offshored or it's going to be AI. No, it's not. There little things might be there, but the reality of it is, it's like, so you're telling me that in the history, we both have public accounting in our background. The first 2 years is when you learn everything. You cut your teeth on everything. Mm-hmm. This is real. There are people's lives at stakes. It's about dollars and cents. It's all these things. There's political stuff. There's social stuff. There's economic stuff. There's all these things. And you're telling me 3 years out of school, you're going to train somebody who has no basis in accounting because they don't know what they know when they come out of school anyway. So now you say, don't worry about the accounting piece. We just want you to run the budget. How in the world? I mean, my response on LinkedIn was, lawsuits are coming.
Yeah.
Because if I'm a client and I look at that as, wait, a 3-year, that guy's running the engagement, it's like, show me the robot army that's doing this, because if I have a question, I'm not going to ask a robot, I'm going to ask you, and when I sue somebody, it's going to be a human.
Yeah.
This whole idea that AI is just going to come and grab up all these jobs, it's malarkey is what it is. And so from the standpoint
you need the experience. You're not going to hire, somebody that just entered the carpentry world to build your house, right?
Correct.
They have to have training and experience, and it sounds dangerous to take somebody that's 2 or 3 years out of school and elevate them like that with the expectation that AI is going to fill the gaps.
Well, and by the way, so again, public accounting backgrounds, when the firm gets sued, who gets attached to that lawsuit? Managers.
Yeah.
So
all the leadership team does, right?
The whole leadership team.
Yeah. So
now you're taking somebody who only has 3 years of experience, and they literally don't know what they're doing for the first 18 months. Right, that's 2 busy seasons worth of time. They have no idea what they're doing. And now, granted, there's some people that go down that learning curve a lot faster. I get that, but the point is that you, after 2 years, you just figured out how to do this job, and hopefully you're building those relationships. You're doing what's necessary, and now 1 year from now, you're going to start managing an engagement. They're not talking seniors, where you have a manager above you. They're saying management. I think it's one of the dumbest things I've ever heard, and I hope somebody from KPMG listens to this and tries to set me straight, because I want to get them on the program and tell them how dumb they are for doing this. This is not the trajectory that we need to go with our young professionals. If you want to see succession planning dive bomb, do that, because they will leave in droves on their own. There is no reason to have that kind of pressure on them. And it's super frustrating to see this, because this is the kind, when students look at this stuff, they read this stuff and they say, offshoring is going to take my job. AI is going to take my job. I have to be a manager. Great. I want to make the decisions, until you get there and you realize, oh, there's a lot more going on than just saying, than being the boss.
Right.
So, I don't know. I don't like the way we're marketing our stuff.
That going back to the comments there about AI and promoting people earlier, I mean, it seems like a bottom line driven answer, right? So,
and again, it feels like private equity is pushing this thing.
Yeah.
It's about profits. No. I get it. You need to make money. I get it. But there's a big movement right now, moving away from the hourly engagement, or the billing by hours, and going to more of a value proposition.
I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the law firms are starting to do that too. But the industry's changing for sure. Just in terms of, there's a lot of firms competing for some of the same business too, right? And we have to go in and differentiate ourselves. And it's not, technology is a part of that. But they ultimately want to trust me.
Yeah.
Right. And the people that are in front of them, they don't want to trust a robot. Right. So it still can't take away the face-to-face and the personal relationship. I consider all of my clients friends. Right. I do things with them sometimes, some of them in social, avenues. And we try to be good about having, different events. Like we have one called, you'll get invited to it. It's Cocktails, Connections, and Cigars. It's a cool event.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
So it's a cool event that we bring together a bunch of clients and prospects. And then, the idea is to start mixing in some of our junior people too, so they can just rub elbows, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to go start a conversation. Just start, if it's your first event, start by just walking around the room, getting comfortable, right? And
go back to 8th grade at the dances. Yeah. I mean, everybody were wallflowers. They're standing off watching the guys that had a little bit more alpha in them, that dancing with the ladies, talking with the ladies. But eventually you start moving your shoulders. Okay, you start bobbing that head. Now you're starting to move your way to the dance floor. Now you're part of the group, right? Yep. Don't just throw them in with just this wide-eyed look and say, you're now a manager. Oh, and by the way, a manager, this is all the heavy burden that we as partners now wear, and directors and all the senior managers wear, but we're going to place it on you. Go be awesome. Excuse me, what?
Yeah, we and just thinking about the way, our people operate in our organization, our younger people are embracing some of the technology and the tools that we have. Is it perfect? It's not, but we're also in a transitionary period where a lot of things are moving really to a good direction that's going to set us up for more efficiencies. But I don't see those things replacing jobs, right? Or pushing people to, get promoted, several years before they should. I was actually talking with one of my colleagues in Miami this morning, Alex, and we were just talking about how, the folks come in and maybe this is a little different topic, but they come in and they expect the money and they expect the promotions after a certain number of years or time period, right? And it's like,
well, they're ambitious. I get it.
Yeah, but they also need to understand that you got to put in the hours and you got to work hard to get there, right? And it doesn't just mean that, hey, when you hit this number of years, you get promoted to this. And, there's still a lot of things that you have to do to make yourself well-rounded, and just not come in and punch the clock and kind of run through the gamut and say, hey, I should be a manager because I've been here for 5 years.
Yeah.
So,
which is the way it used to be, by the way. If you didn't make manager in 5 years,
they were kind of pushing you out, right?
They're going to counsel you out, right? Yeah.
Look, I remember all those days, and I remember, I remember back when I was a junior person and staff associate, right? And I remember getting phone calls at 11 o'clock at night and like, hey, you screwed something up. You need to come back to the office, right? Like, and you did it,
bro.
right?
I've been there.
I think we're in today's world. We are much more compassionate in the way that we coach our people and try to lead our people, and it was a little more hardcore, right? But it was my way or the highway, right? Back then. But I will say, I look back at those years too and go, well, the years that I got at Arthur Andersen were really set the whole tone for the rest of my career, right? The leadership there was phenomenal, right? And I never thought I'd leave Andersen and really,
Andersen left you.
Yeah. After, post Enron, right? Had some decisions to make, right? Stick around and, merge with some other firms and, or move on. And, it's really one of the reasons why I ended up back at BDO is we have the most amazing leadership team. And from day one, and again, this is just my little pitch of why I made a decision.
Tell me why BDO is different.
Well, it really starts at the top.
Okay.
Right. We have amazing leadership. When I started talking to BDO about making a change, I got connected with, Danny Castro in Miami, Jim White in Jacksonville, Matt DeMong in Boston, and Matt Becker, who is currently our head of the tax practice in the U.S., and he's actually moving into our CEO role, which is awesome. So great leadership. And really, the things that we talked about and the direction of the firm and the culture and the way they've set the tone at the top and pushed that down was very impressive. And, I talked to a lot of people. I probably interviewed with, 11 or 12 people, and I know you saw that article the other day, so we can talk about that in a minute. But everybody I talked to resonated, had the same tone of we're building a high-performing culture that values our people. And, one of the biggest things in making a career change later in life, too, was, hey, I still got 4 kids. That's important to me. I want to make sure this works. And, I was reassured that, like, hey, you're going to be able to, you're a professional, right? And you're going to be able to set your own schedule. Obviously, there's client emergencies sometimes that you got to deal with. But really, the leadership at BDO, super strong. Everything that, they have talked to me about and that I was told during the process has lived out, right? It's like, it's all true. And we have amazing people. And I'm still getting to know people. I've been there about 2 years now, but still getting to know people every day. And every time I travel, just meeting a bunch of professionals who are really invested in the firm, invested in helping our people grow. And, the brand has come a long way. BDO's gone through a transformation where they did some tuck-in acquisitions over the years, and but they've also grown significantly organically. And, we're at a position now where they decided instead of, taking PE money that they were going to go the ESOP route.
Okay.
And I really like that idea, and I'm all in on it, right? So I think that's a great tool for all of us there at the firm, and it's different. Every firm that's taken PE money, I think, has had different experiences. We've seen a lot of disruption and a lot of chaos in some of them, and some of them are making it work better than others. But it's it can be a challenging road, right? And it could be right for some, and but. We've been able to pick up a lot of business and get some people from some of those firms because of some of that disruption. I want to say, you're right. You talk about firm culture. I remember when I first came out of school, I understand everybody wanted to work for Andersen. That was the cream of the crop, right? And then you had before it wasn't, it was Deloitte and Touche, and then you had E&Y, right? Price Waterhouse. So when I came out, I was in the second year of Price Waterhouse being put together. With
it used
Coopers.
to be Price, and then it was Coopers and Lybrand, right? And just experiencing that alone,
we're dating ourselves
where the Price and the Coopers came together two completely different cultures.
Yep.
Two completely different. This is when work papers used to be physical work papers. You had that giant spike that went through,
yeah.
in the corner punch. It's like, I need that.
Big yellow fold-out sheets.
Oh my gosh!
Right?
Well, see, here's the thing. So one had blue and one had yellow. They're like, well, maybe we should just have we should just have an amalgamation of the two colors. So they had to pick. What was the front of the work papers going to look like? Like that's how granular it was getting to from like a culture standpoint. But what I realized there is that when you start bringing those elements together, there's some people that are like, I'm just gonna move on. I don't really like where the culture's going. I liked my legacy firm, and you would have those legacy people. But finally, after that assimilation happened, and you have PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, people really owned it. And it was great because then there wasn't that split mentality when you're on campus trying to talk to students. It was like, no, we are PricewaterhouseCoopers, and because I used to be on those recruiting teams, and I used to go out and talk to the tax kids who were looking at their feet, and the audit kids that were looking in your eyes. So there's stereotypes. But you're right. So from BDO standpoint, with that tone at the top. Do you see that resonating when you're on campus? Are people asking you about that?
They are.
The kids?
And the ones that aren't, I'm offering it up because it's important. And I have clients ask or prospects, when we meet, why BDO? And I kind of have to walk them through BDO's history and how we got there. We have a lot of homegrown, specialized talent, and we also have a lot of, principals that have spent time at some of our larger competitors. And the talent team that we've built is exceptional. Mm-hmm. And we have the ability to do anything that somebody wants to ask or somebody needs, right, in the tax, accounting, or advisory space worldwide, right? So, but it again, the culture, the people, the collaboration, mm-hmm. I will say the collaboration within our own firm and the way that we work with and deal with each other, we're all on the same team and we recognize that, right? And I have experienced other issues in the past at other places where, it's a little more divisive internally, just in terms of going to market and who's doing this, and you're kind of fighting against each other, right? So look, my experience is very positive. I try to relay those experiences to students. I talk to them. I gave the example at one of the meetings in when I was on campus in Tallahassee, and I said, who knows who Publix is, right? Well, of course everybody knows who Publix is, right? So I said, well, do you know that the guy that's, the old guy that's bagging your groceries probably has a couple $1 million worth of shares of Publix? And I said, I was at the store not too long, and that's attributable to the ESOP, right? The same thing that we've done. And I said, a couple months ago, I was at the store, and, friendly gentleman bagging my groceries says, hey, I just got back from a trip up to Hilton Head or something. And I said, oh, what was that for? And he goes, well, it was the Publix Millionaires Club. And he said there was 3,000 people there. And the executive team, I don't think, was invited, but it was everybody that owned over $1 million of Publix stock.
3,000 people?
Yeah, it was some crazy number. I can't remember, yeah. And I was like, holy cow. But that just shows you the value, if you take an ownership mindset too, if we all work together to grow and it starts at the lower levels, then, everybody's going to be rewarded in the way that the price of the ESOP grows as well, right? It's going to correlate. So
you're seeing buy-in from the younger kids saying, hey, that I want to get a piece of that.
They're very curious about it. Okay. And again, what I've experienced so far is a lot of them don't really understand it and what it means. So I've spent time in the presentations, digging into that a little bit more and helping to explain that. Yeah. So, and that's to me, it's a differentiator. So with our firm versus some of the other firms,
So what kind of characteristics are you looking for for these kids that are coming out of school? Are you looking for masters in accounting? Are you looking for bachelors? Or what?
So I guess the norm, right? And I know we're talking about trying to break the norm here. Is normally a student. We will take a student on an internship after their junior year. Okay. Right. So they come, they'll work a winter internship or a summer internship, spend a period of time with us, get a little taste of what it's like to, work on some clients and get exposure to an office environment and the whole team. And then if everything goes well with the internship, and most of them do, they'll get a job offer and they will go back to school and finish their senior year and then go get their master's, and they have a job waiting for them. Okay.
Do you require the masters, or they're just doing it on their own?
We do not require the masters, but in Florida, speaking from Florida's perspective, and there's a lot of debate about the hours, but
right.
we do want people to have the 150 hours. So some people will go get a dual degree.
Okay.
Right. Like I did that. I didn't want to go get my master's. I got an accounting and a marketing degree,
okay.
but I got the 150. So people will have a job waiting for them, and but the most of them do go get the masters, but it's probably more of a trend, that people just do that path, okay. right? Because that gets you to the 150 and it gives you, an elevated degree.
Sure.
But, I don't think anything changes in terms of your starting role comp or anything like that, with whether or not you have a master's or 2 bachelors or just extra hours. So.
Yeah. So I'm curious because a lot of the kids right now, especially with the changes in the laws that are happening, right? With the 150 not being, you don't need 150 anymore.
Yeah. Did you say Illinois just passed a multi-path route?
Well, explain that.
So, their path before was 150, and now they have. I didn't look at all into the details. I just kind of saw the headlines, but I think they have 1 or 2 other paths now where you can just get 120 hours and maybe have 2 years of experience, right? And there may have even been another one. That seems to be
what the landscape is doing right now,
yeah.
And it's a real big deal. When we were at the Cal CPA, they were talking about the same thing about getting more pathways to that CPA exam, and so obviously we had discussed on this program a handful of months ago is Boyd. Who you met earlier, was instrumental in helping getting that legislation passed here in Georgia, but it wasn't until Florida said, "Hey, we're going to do this too." And so said in 1 state happened, 2 states happened, 3, 4, 5. Now you are these major states where people are looking for, hey, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Okay, the dominoes are falling. So the question is, now the kids are coming out and they can go get that bachelor's in accounting and have a really good job. Now you need that. I would say about 2 years worth of experience, which you need anyway.
For sure.
Right? And in fact, if you get those 2 years, it's like going to an MBA, taking an MBA course without going and working first and then just going straight through and getting an MBA. Like, what's the point? Like, you don't offer anything to your teammates inside the curriculum. You're just kind of there going, yeah, I don't really think that's right. Well, you've never been in business. What do you know? So now you take someone who has a bachelor's degree in accounting, you give them 2 years of experience, they go back, if they want to get back and get their master's, great. But at least they know they want to do it. This is where I was going with the, so I've been really starting to get close with the Institute of Management Accountants. Mike DePrisco and those guys out there, they've got a really neat thing going. Early on they had it was like the certified, I'm going to get this wrong, certified management accountant. That's what it was. And so they would ask me, it's like, students would ask, like, what's the difference between the two? It's like, well, one, the CPA, if you really want to go into public accounting and be that level of a professional in the CPA world with all the rules and the regulations and things like that, CPA is where you want to go. That is again, I call it the crown jewel. It is the crown jewel of our discipline. And once you attain that, if you have those 3 little letters behind your name, people are like, damn, all right, you're part of the group. And at first, when the CMA was coming out, people, when it first comes out, you're kind of like, what is this? Is it worth it? Is it just like stealing people away? It's a viable path. It's a viable path that says, hey, I don't really care to do like taxes. I don't really care to sign opinions, but I do want to be a badass accountant. So the CMA is telling me from a management perspective, which I think personally, I would hire someone with a CMA background, because this is that real tangible experience that we're talking about, that you know how to run a business. It's I think you and I were talking about earlier, like when we start talking about accounting instruction and why is it different? And I have this conversation with the IMA, because they're like, preach, right? Right now at the university levels, we have we everywhere you go, financial accounting is taught first, and it's taught first for whatever reason, because someone said it needed to be that way. Someone marketed it that way. I don't know, but any campus you go to, it is taught first. Now this is after, of course, you take your generations course, your intro course, where they weed you out if you can't make it. But then they take you out of this one course to say, okay, you've now made it through the weed out course. Now let's see if you can really make it. Here's financial accounting. and they go, what in the world is this? I don't want to be an accountant. And it's because now you're taking stuff that is more reporting based of, you haven't even told them what the numbers mean yet, right? But no, you're going to learn the journal entries for really, really laborious transactions, for business combinations and all these things. Pensions. So you look at this and you're like, what is going on here? Why are we teaching kids that first? And so I'm on this crusade right now, and that's why I'm really getting near and dear with the IMA folks, is that I really think that we should be teaching cost accounting first. And it's not revolutionary, but the conversations that I'm having, whether it's the Georgia Association of Accounting Educators, I had a conversation with Dr. Carl Warren, who's one of probably most prolific writer of textbooks with Cengage Publishing. So if all the kids these days, it's where their accounting textbooks are coming from, and I'm on the phone with them, and I'm telling them about, I really think that it needs to be flipped. And he goes, yeah, I agree. Well, this guy's what? In his maybe a septuagenarian, octogenarian. He's been around for a long time. He's a professor emeritus at the University of Georgia, and he said, yeah. In fact, when I brought this repositioning of these classes to the GAAE, they looked at it and go. He said there was not one person in the room that disagreed with it, and so I told him, I was like, well, then why are we doing it? If everybody agrees with this, why are we still making them go through that same path? Because we know what the outcome's going to be. It's going to be Irma sitting here telling me, I wish they would have taught me what I needed to know in school.
I still remember taking cost accounting later in the career. I had to repeat it.
I hated it when I took it.
I got my first D ever in college in it, and I had to repeat it. I had a good GPA coming out of school, but like that one was whatever, 12 classes into your accounting major.
Yeah.
So, but for some reason I couldn't grasp it at first, right? And, it took, you might say it's my Florida State mind.
Maybe.
But,
hang out with those circus folk. Or the partying. I mean, it was the number one party school.
I was very studious. So
studying labels on them beer bottles.
It was hard to comprehend. So you bring up an interesting point, because if that's flipped and that's pushed to a little more of the front of and I thought it was just me, right? But now you're bringing it up. I've heard other people say they hate cost accounting, but maybe that should be first or towards the front of, the pathway for a student. So, another thing too, that when you said, what are you looking for? I'm looking for some kind of outgoing personality too, right?
Sure.
I don't want to talk to somebody that wants to talk to the sidewalk crack.
Yeah.
So like,
well, they have benefits too.
But, and this could go in a couple different ways, but like if you have somebody that is ambitious, that is interested in asking questions and can look you in the eye and have a conversation, then you have somebody too that can do that with a client, right? And thinking about our younger people that were hired during COVID, and since COVID, they haven't had a lot of social and business office interaction with their colleagues, with their peers, the people they report to, clients, and they've kind of lived in a little bit of a hermit crab type of environment, and some of them still like that, right? Like, so I don't know that any of the firms have a mandatory return to office mandate yet, but we try to encourage people to come in at least a couple times a week, because we can collaborate better when we're together. But it also gets people just being more social and more interactive. So if you can find some of those characteristics of students now that haven't entered the business world, it's only going to get better, right? It's not to say that you're not going to hire a good shy person that's ambitious. It happens, right? And part of us
and they crush work too. They're valuable in their own rights,
and look,
right?
There's several roles they can play, and part of it is us grabbing them by the hand and bring them along, right, to help. We're helping them not only be a successful CPA or accountant, whatever they're doing, but we also have to help them, develop relationships and be able to communicate effectively, right? So that's I look for that, and I look for people that are super engaging, and every time I go on campus, I say, look, you don't have to wait for an interview or an office visit. Raise your hand and send me a note. Here's my number. Here's my email address, or message me on LinkedIn. Like, you can come to my office anytime and I'll give you a tour and just, show you around. We actually have a senior in our office that has shown a lot of good promise, and he wants to get involved in business development, which is really cool. He's starting to think that way. But he entertained some students just several months back. I didn't even know he was doing it, right? Like, they reached out and he brought them in the office and showed them around, went to lunch with them. And we need more of that. But the students that are ambitious, that want to capitalize on some of those opportunities too, you can see, that they're going to be ahead of maybe even some of the people that were kind of during the COVID years.
Yeah, so you got a handful of things that are happening there. I remember when I was doing on-campus recruiting for PwC and Deloitte, and I would go to Florida State, I would go to University of Florida, and go down to Miami. So the big ones at the time. USF was still coming along at the time, and UNF just it was there, but nobody, like the big four, if they went, it was like the local people that went there, right? Now I love UNF. My son's there right now. So but what I would do when I was recruiting is I would make sure. People would say, well, what are the criteria you're looking for? It's like, I don't want the 4.0 candidate. I will take a 4.0 candidate if they can talk. But what I'm looking for the kid that has a 3.2, 3.3 and can talk to me about anything other than accounting. Yeah. Because if you could just talk to me about football. I mean, we're in the South. We're at the University of Florida right now. We have a hot football team. Talk to me about basketball. Talk to me about something other than accounting. Because if you can do that, like you said, that means you have the gift of gab. And when the client comes to you and you're making coffee, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, so what'd you do this weekend? Oh, we went on a boat. We did this, that. You're having a conversation. You're relating with your customer on something other than numbers, because your customer, believe it or not, does not want to talk about numbers, right? They want to know who you are, and once they trust you, whatever you say about the numbers, they're gonna buy right into it. Which brings me right into this conversation that we were having at the California CPAs. Same two individuals were up on stage, and they mentioned something. They said, he said, the problem that we're having right now is that the rainmakers are retiring. And I think, well, gosh, why do you think that's the case? And you trace it all the way back down to that weed out course. You know why? Because the rainmakers were the ones that we weeded out in the very, very beginning, and they became the marketers, they became the business people, they became all the sports management majors and all those things. And we had to go hire the salesperson back into the firm so that they can go and be relatable to people, because we have a whole bunch of CPAs in an ivory tower that think that they're the smartest people on the planet, and they're just, come on, guys. There's more to it than looking at the numbers. And so I'm looking at this going, yeah, I know what the problem with that is. I know why the rainmakers are retiring, because we've weeded out all the rainmakers. So what are we going to do to fix that? Cast a bigger net. Stop weeding people out. Start identifying all their differences and saying, we don't have one of you. Oh man, you need an accounting degree. You need to be in an accounting degree. So people, when they look at accounting, they don't look at some like the typical 45-year-old white guy that's angry at life because life has passed him by, right? Now he's getting divorced. He's buying a Corvette, whatever, right? No, I need people that understand filmmaking. I need people that love to fish. I need people that can do other things besides accounting that make them super interesting. Oh, and by the way, they're badass accountants too, which brings me right into back to the curriculum side. Not only does cost accounting need to be done first, we need to change the way we're teaching cost accounting. And what I mean by that is that we are it's just because it's just math, Dr. Naddy, it's just math. It's not just math. It's storytelling. It's having numbers on a page that anybody only certain people are qualified to look at and say, I can see what story is being told on this income statement. Mm-hmm. I can see this balance sheet in an instant. I know exactly what's happening. I can look at a cash flow statement. I can tell you this. Well, then tell me the story.
The reader has transparency and knows all about the business by reading audited financials. Right?
So we give them communication classes, but that's like business emails and things like that. Why aren't we teaching them how to, I don't know, write a comic book, do a film class, do something where there's an arc, where you start here and you take a customer on a journey. Here's your starting point. Here's an arc. Here's the denouement, right? And here's the closing. It's the classic English thing that people like, we all poo-poo the English stuff. Oh, there's English majors. It's like English majors understand this better than we do, but I can also teach an English major how to do accounting. You know what's really difficult to do? Teach an accountant how to be creative.
Yep. Have you ever asked any of your junior people that you need to craft a business case for something?
Oh my gosh. It's
you end up doing a lot of it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because, there's a way you can finesse the words to make sure it tells the story and
when you have the expertise to pull
yourself,
from, right? Yeah.
So, but a lot of times it's challenging to get some of that crafted in a way that it's broader than just numbers, right?
I should let you see. So this most recent class, I will go to my grave saying this. I love teaching SCAD students because they don't. First of all, it's not accounting first. It's not. It's like they're looking at it from a passion of I just want to paint. I just want to sculpt. I just want to dance. I just want to do all these other things besides accounting. And I guess I got to learn accounting because at some point I'm either gonna work for somebody or I'm gonna work for myself. Because on this side of heaven, you need cash, right? So in this case, they're looking at it. They have this passion. They just want to go out and do their passion. But I got to take this course. So what I'm teaching them is how to start a business, how to look at your cost environment. And once you get your cost environment, how do you price your products? How do you price your services? What's a CVP analysis? How does that be pulled into a pro forma? Because you're going to start running out of cash. You're going to have to go get some money from somewhere, and a bank's not going to give it to you because they don't know who you are, and you're not anybody of importance. And maybe if your dad or your mom's on the board, they might look at you, but they're not giving you any cash. You're a soft bet right now. So you need to go out and get investment dollars. So you're going to put a pro forma together, put an investor relations pitch together, or an investor pitch together, and go get that money. Once you get that money, what do? Guess what? Now you have a whole bunch of opinions and a whole bunch of masters.
How do you deploy it?
And
right?
Yeah, exactly. So are you going to steward it correctly? And when it's out there, when you finally do hit that challenging event, like a plane goes down, burns up 85% of the coffee crop that you had for your coffee business. Like, what are you going to do? An Instagram follower or an Instagram influencer does something on Instagram, and all of a sudden just takes a chug of your seltzer, and it's blowing up. You don't have enough product. You're about to fail because their business is taking off too fast. What are you going to do, right? And now I'm teaching creatives how to do this. I should be able to teach a business person how to do this, right? It's par for the course. It's easy stuff. You said it. Try to pull up a business use case example, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" It's almost like we're handicapping the accounting students by not getting the creativeness.
And you can do it now by Chat GPT, but you should have learned how to do it without Chat GPT, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's too many tools that while good, it's enabling people to take shortcuts and not learn how to really do it. Right?
Yeah, there's all those MIT studies of people using ChatGPT and how the brain's not lighting up and stuff like that. So yeah, they used to do that when this is your brain on drugs.
Yeah.
Right? Brain lights up on that thing, right?
Going back to just when we're looking at candidates, I remember several years ago hiring a kid. He played baseball at Georgia Southern or one of the smaller schools here or there. I can't remember which one it was. And his GPA was, I don't know, lower threes, 3.2, like 3.2, 3.3, something like that. But, he played baseball and he was the captain of the team. And, he walked me through, some challenging situations he had, both as an athlete and as a student. And I'm like, this guy has leadership abilities, right? Like, and he doesn't have a 4.0, but you know what? I'm going to believe in him because he's given me that story, on who he is and what he can do. So we hired him. It turned out great. He's been on kind of an accelerated promotion path. But it just goes to show you can't look at the numbers when you're looking at the students. You can't have AI tell you who's your candidate.
Right.
Right. You got to have those conversations with them and get a level of trust and develop a relationship with them.
So probably very similar when you came out. You went to Anderson out of school. They probably had some kind of initial, hey, welcome to the firm type thing. They probably said, hey, here's who we are. This is who Anderson is. This is the banner that you're now flying. And they probably gave you some kind of initial instruction on, hey, so this is what, as an auditor, as a tax person, this is what you do, right? one of the things that I think that where the firms can really help out here is that if the universities aren't going to do it because it's just we just don't have any room. We can offer it as an elective, but they're not going to offer it. They have their curriculum and their course catalogs, and you have to take these certain ones, right? Where I think if the school has the ability to have, I would hate to say the English department, but maybe like a film or a journalism department. It's like just to be able to take one of these courses in this other discipline, to learn how to tell a story, learn how to write with flair, and then bring that back into accounting, and just tell me a story. Tell me when I see that graph and that thing's moving up and down, when it goes bunk bunk like that, what's everybody gonna look at? They're looking at the bunk bunk. They don't care about whatever's out there. Can you explain to me what the top and the bottom of that was for? Because if you understand what the people outside are looking at and going, I want to know that, I want to know that, then you better be ready to tell that story. And that's where I think we do ourselves a disservice, because when we pitch when we're putting financial statements in front of clients, as partners in the room, senior managers, whoever's doing the presentation. Hey guys, here's your income statement. Here's your balance sheet. It's very bleh. Like, guys, spice this thing up. This is the reason why people don't want to be CPAs. They look across the room like, oh my gosh, this is what I can aspire to become. No, thank you. Yeah. I think that the storytelling aspect, if we were to take the cost accounting class and just don't strip out the numbers. You have to have the numbers, but go back to the concepts of what we're trying to achieve. What's the context that we're trying to get across? Is that we didn't have revenue before. We have revenue now. Why? Our cost was here and it went down. What did you do? Like, can you explain to me that? Because if I can teach you those, it doesn't matter what numbers are in the matrix.
And in today's world, that skill set doesn't really resonate until they're much further along in their career.
And you know why? Is because they realize later on that it's not about the numbers. It's about how you spin those numbers because you could have a really bad year, but you're in front of your shareholders, you're in your shareholder meeting, and you're like, you know what, guys? It was rough. But let me tell you how we're going to fix this. Let me show you how we're going to. This isn't a bad thing. This is a learning experience for us, right? It's a little bit of spin, but that's the way you do it. That's the way you instill confidence. That's the way you show that you're competent as a leader, but also as a manager.
And it gives you a well-rounded understanding of the business.
And people love stories. So, we are a people group that we used to sit around bonfires and listen to the old guy with a big old beard and the naughty staff, right? And he would spin tales. Why can't we do that? The thing is, we can. And so you look at it and you go, okay, well, I'm going to take cost accounting, I'm going to take this, this number, I'm going to take finance, I'm going to take storytelling 101. Well, what is that? It's like, I don't know, but it sounds different. You get in there and all of a sudden, wait, they want me to draw a comic book? Yeah, dude, believe me, this works.
You're using a different part of your brain, that's for sure. Yeah, I think, and again, I've done campus recruiting at multiple universities, and I do think, to your point, going back to when we first started, a lot of the professors are recognizing the fact that we need to try to mold people in a more well-rounded way, right? I will tell you that I've had some very great sit-downs with groups of professors where I just let them pick my brain and we'll just talk, and I'll offer up, some of my experiences in the past, and they're very interested in it. There's one professor too that's, doing some similar type of research on, the molding of students in the accounting and how PE is affecting the firms, and then how's that affecting the culture. And like, it's kind of an interesting, I want to check in and see how that's going, because it's an interesting, I think she's going to come up with an interesting assessment, right? So,
when that comes out, I'd love to read that and be a part of that. When we start talking about this, I almost feel like take it all the way back to the Medici family, right? So you're back in Italy. They're starting the banking system, and then so you're looking at this like, well, what else were they doing? They were around painters. They were around sculptors. They were living in this Renaissance period, and they just happened to be the ones that were handling everybody's money, right? Those guys, they were part of the community. they were in and out of all these different circles, which is what we want from our people. As you grow them in the firm, you want them to be able to navigate and go in and out all these different circles and be that one unifying force that says BDO means that person knows finance, but they also know me.
Right. Right.
And I think that's where I almost want to say where you were talking about this professor that you're or this researcher. I almost think there needs to be like a Renaissance accounting where we're going to teach you the numbers. But for every class we're going to teach you for numbers, I'm going to teach you how to communicate those in some form or fashion, whether it's in a film, whether it's in a comic book. I know I keep going back. I just love comic books. I love manga and all that stuff. But I'm going to teach you how to express that information in a different way, so that when you take a financial statement, you don't just slide it across the table and they go, what is this? Like, oh, that's your financial stuff. Like, I don't get it. Like,
yeah.
I'm a mom and pop. I brought you in to help me with this stuff, and all you gave me was a sheet of numbers. Like, am I healthy? Am I not? Like, tell me what's going on.
And the same thing applies to the way that we're tackling the way we serve clients. Like, what we're trying to get our people to do is be proactive and start thinking about, like, if you're fully invested in your client and you understand all of their numbers, we should be able to, all the planning opportunities and ideas that we're putting in front of our firm that are door openers or can save our clients money, our people need to be able to recognize that, right? And not just be data entry tax processors, right? Like, and I'm using the tax side of the house as a little bit there. So, I've been trying to get people to think creatively, even at lower levels, about how, because that, if a senior or an associate or a manager brings me an idea and says, hey, I think we could take this idea to this client, and it's like, that's going to then be a client for life, right? Or for a long period of time, because if we're constantly showing that we're invested in them and we understand their whole situation and not just certain sets of numbers, but it does require thinking a little bit outside the box too, right? On what we can do, right? And
are you familiar with the improv rules? Improv rules of improv theater?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so improv theater is it's yes and. You never say no in improv, because the instant you say no, the momentum is sapped and you're done. You can't move. So that's why that Whose Line It Is Anyway show, when they come out, guy does something and they start laughing and like, okay, this is now the new fact pattern. Here we go. Yeah. They don't go, wait, no. I was going to say this. So I almost think that an improv class. I mean, when I talk about what the firms can do to help bring people along, if one of the first things they're doing when they come in the first 6 months, first year, is, hey, we know this sounds kind of dumb. You guys are going to put on skits. For the skit. Last time I did a skit was at church camp.
That's an interesting concept.
Could you imagine? Really is. Pulls you out of that normal cubicle.
Everything's on the table. Do you want to make fun of the principals or somebody else in the firm?
Put it out there.
It's all in jest. Right?
But people have stereotypes. There's certain people in the office. They pick up their mannerisms and stuff like, oh, I know who that is. That is. But little things like that just help them say, look, we get it. We're here about numbers. We're here about the bottom line. It's all about revenues, black and red, right? And by the way, the marketing kids, hey, marketing, you can go learn marketing, but if you don't understand the black and red, you're not going to get your budget. If you come to them and say, here's my marketing idea and here's my budget, they go, whoa. So yeah, you can have that accounting degree and have that marketing master's, but you understand the budget, you're in. So I think that the way that we can really help this along, because a lot of the universities are going to throw up their hands and be like, it's not our fault. It's like we give them the knowledge, now they have to apply it. And the firms go back, well, it's not our fault, they should have prepared them. Like, no. It's both of our fault. But if we need to keep making up for the university's deficiencies, I think the way we do it is we teach it in a very different way. And we teach them how, okay, look, we get it, the knowledge. Let me show you how to spin it. Let me show you how to get out of yourself and actually get into their shoes, what's important for them. And now we're having a conversation that they're going to be, instead of leaning back, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, tell me more. This is really cool. Wait, what did you just say? Go back. What? That's where you grab them. And we could teach that. Yeah. They may not be the best artists.
The whole dialogue, the whole root cause of what you're trying to do here, I mean, is interesting, because I've been more focused on, and again, it's probably a little bit more of a reactive situation, because within a firm, right, you've got people that need to be, like, you talked about the rainmakers, and I'm a little all over the place here. The rainmakers, right? And the rainmakers we have are doing great, right, at drumming up business and, client development and relationships. But then, like, there's a big gap, like, underneath that, right?
Huge.
And it's like, who's going to be the next people to take the reins that can come in and sell? And what we're having to do right now, which is great for the time being because it's going to help us grow, is, recruiting experienced professionals that are senior level in, but we've also got to take all those people and bring them along and get them ready. And it really, at this point, again, I go back to the COVID years, and some of that has come into play, but some of it is that, we just need to do a better job of bringing them along to our meetings and helping them get in front of people and develop relationships. And, I remember doing a meeting with a group of people, and I said, look, business development doesn't mean you have to set up a lunch and go with somebody. It means you need to just be social and talkative. And
be present.
When you're sitting at your son's baseball game and there's somebody next to you, talk to them, right?
Yeah.
Like, don't play on your phone the whole time.
Yeah.
If you just stir up a conversation, you might find out who that person is and who they work for, or they might have a connection to a company we're trying to work with. And now you've done your job, right? Like, and you've helped grow our firm by bringing a lead or an opportunity in the door. And I'm just trying to pound that into their heads time after time after time of, it's on all of us, right? Just because you don't have sales goals at the senior manager, whatever levels, like, it's still something that we need to do in order to build a legacy and have a handoff, right? So, but, talking about where you're going here with some fundamental changes in the education level that could help, develop them before they hit, the working world. It's an interesting concept for sure. So it's probably going to require, a bigger train, right?
It's definitely going to be the Tim Naddy tooting his horn. But right now,
start somewhere.
But so right now, this is the conversation that I'm having right now. Okay, Institute of Management Accountants, you got the Cal CPAs, FI CPA, Maryland CPA, Georgia CPAs. Eventually, I will. My goal is to get all 50 states CPA societies saying, guys, we need to change this stuff. This is not just a problem that he's seeing. It's a problem that our future talent. We really need to fix this problem. And at some point I get it. At some point it's a little bit of drama and all this stuff. But what I absolutely can't stand, the professor in me, I really have a heart for these young professionals. Anywhere between the first 2 years, junior to senior, to +5, right? That young professional crowd. There's so much that can be done to guide them in that 7-year window of life, that if we capture them there, we'll have them for life, and they're going to be amazing. They're going to love their jobs. They're going to love their community, the CPA community, the accounting community, the finance community. They're going to love what they do, and because they're going to bring not only their expertise to the table, they're going to bring their personalities to the table. And I ride a Harley, great, bring it in. I got a tattoo, great, let's show it off. Be who you want, be who you are, but also everybody's going to know you as that person's a professional. That person works for BDO and they're badass. And so, but we can do that for all of them. It's just a matter of just kind of getting out of our own way.
Yeah, it's helping them build their own personal brand, which then also helps us build the company brand.
That's the rising tide, right? So the rising tide is I'm going to help you become more successful, and by you being more successful, everybody's going to win.
For sure.
That's a great place to wrap this up. Hey, listen. So real quick, BDO. How do I get in contact with you? If I'm a student, I want to reach out to BDO. How do I do this?
LinkedIn's probably the best way to do it. Drop me a message.
Okay. We'll put that in the show notes later, so people can find you. And you are out of the Jacksonville office. Is that correct?
I'm based out of the Jacksonville office, but I travel the state quite a bit in Florida, so I'm all over the place. Willing and able to talk to anybody anytime. So, just like you, I just want to help. I want to help develop young people and, bring our profession along, right? And,
so I'm a student in California. I'm a student in North Carolina. I'm a student in Georgia. Can I still talk to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Doors open all the time.
Awesome.
Doors open. Just mentoring people is what I also enjoy doing too. So, and as fast as I seem to run, being at a firm, being at BDO for 2 years, a lot of reflection is, hey, I need to sometimes slow down and spend more time with our people. I'm willing to do that, whether it's internally in our firm or externally. So,
with the understanding that, and people know when they come into finance, there are times that we grind. It's an expectation of the field, right? But understand that it's not because we don't. It's not that what you're saying right now is not important. It's that there's a window of time that we have to get things done, and then after that, let's pick up our heads and let's see each other.
Yeah, and I've kind of made that a commitment. I had a couple of conversations with some younger professionals, and I think we were at a firm event, to kind of celebrate our accomplishments and things. And so social, we ate and we had some beers, and a couple people said, I don't work on any of your jobs that I'd really like to. I don't really know what you do. And because part of my role is I'm running all over the state and just developing relationships and helping, our other teams, with pursuits. And then a lot of it is I do serve a core group of clients and in Jacksonville, and I'm in the community and all kinds of things. But it made me realize a little bit too, I need to slow down and get to know some of our younger people just a little bit more, right? They've thrown a lot at me since I've been there, and it's great, and I love it. But I want to make sure that I'm leading by example, and I have a personal relationship with everybody that I come into contact with.
And that's very noble. It's honorable. The question I have for you is, can you also impart that upon your other leaders at your firm to also take that added interest to reach through the manager level and say, I see you, I care about where you're going. How can I help you get there? Because mentorship it's got to be one of the main things that we do at the senior levels.
It is, and that is something that we have been kind of pounding into all of our leaders and all the markets. We're also coming up with some creative and different ways. I think we're going to dust off some old kind of business development types of tactics and courses that we're going to deploy, at even some of the lower levels, just to help, people get more well-rounded and more professional and be able to, enter the world and develop relationships and be market-facing a little bit more too.
Well, if we turn around and pour ourselves into the people behind us, that is the behavior that they're going to learn from us, and then they are going to turn around and pour themselves. It's a pay-it-forward type thing.
For sure.
But it starts with us.
It does.
So BDO, thank you for representing today, Scott. You're amazing. I'm glad that we met in a really weird way, but I think we're gonna be friends, bud. Bromance has started.
Look forward to it. So thank you for having me on. This has been great. Willing to come back anytime if you'll have me. So
we'll consider it.
Yeah, I'll wear some Seminole garb next time.
Okay, yeah, you're not coming back. Hey, we're glad you're here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we're out.
Okay.